I want to give you a visual representation of how trauma works and what this program does. So on the side, I've written mom, dad, sibling, best friend, church, and boyfriend. Those are examples of influences in a person's life. And then across the top, I put anger, fear, hurt, sadness, guilt, and shame. So when you're growing up, let's say you're a little kid and you're super excited to show mom something, but she's really distracted and just doesn't really have time to pay attention to you. Okay, so mom is just doing her thing. She's just busy and distracted. But because of that, you feel hurt. And then a few years later, dad is busy working. He works all the time, doesn't really have the time to spend with you. Well, your brain says, oh, we've been through something similar. I know exactly where to put this situation. And it routes it in about the same place, right? And then because of that, you feel sadness. Dad doesn't have time for you. And then you have a sibling who is, in true sibling style, very annoyed with you, tells you, you're annoying, leave me alone. And because of that, you feel angry, maybe some hurt, maybe sadness because you just wanted to hang out with them. And then, a few years down the road, you try calling your best friend at a time whenever you really need to talk to them, and they do not answer the phone. And then because of that, you feel maybe fear that no one likes you, feel a little bit angry about it, and you go to church, and someone at the church, like you're telling them about how you were just really upset that your best friend didn't answer the phone, and they say something like, well, maybe they had something going on, maybe you're just being like selfish, maybe you need to think about other people, right? So then you're feeling guilt and you're feeling shame. And you'll see there's starting to be a really big tangled mass right here. But then there's like a lot of crossover points all over the place, right? It's getting messy. And that is just 5 different events. And what's happening is a lot of this is the brain is routing it to the same general area because it's like, oh, we've been here before. I know what to do with this. It's just what your brain does. But what's happening is this is starting to create a belief system right here where this mess is. Everything is tangling up together right there. So you're starting to wonder and you're starting to feel like maybe you're not that important. And that's what's happening right here. Okay? So all of that is there. And then you get a boyfriend. And the boyfriend gets really mad at you. And he says, no one will ever love you. So it goes through there. Same place because your brain is already like, oh, I know where to put this kind of situation, right? And then from that, maybe you feel angry because how dare anyone say something like that to a person? Maybe you feel fear that he is correct. Maybe you feel hurt because you're like, well, I'm not loved. You feel sad because maybe no one will ever love you. You feel guilt because maybe you should have done something different. You feel shame because you're just not that special. This is what we usually think of as trauma, but everything on this board has created trauma. Often we try to scale these things. We compare traumas. And so if you're looking on the grand scheme of this situation is like the worst one, right? It's like the most devastating, traumatic thing on this board. And then a lot of times we try to rank it like, oh, but it's not that bad. It's not that big of a trauma. Well, the fact of the matter is, it is trauma. And look at all of the mess that it created, right? And it really solidified a lot of things because the brain is taking those same pathways, going to the same places whenever it comes up with a similar situation. It's just reinforcing what was already there. So if we go and we deal with this trauma right here, from the boyfriend and what he said, the fact is, this whole belief system was already being created. I'm not that important. And so now it's just escalated, and it's gone from I'm not important to I am not lovable. I'm not lovable. Not important, not loved, not lovable. And so that is how trauma actually forms. And if you look at this, look at all these crossover points in other places. So you have more here and you have more here. I mean, it is all over the board. You've got little belief systems popping up all over the place. You have crossovers all over the place. And so this is part of the reason why, like, if things from your childhood, so like the way that you interact with your parents, for example, and your siblings, that all of this stuff is going to carry into relationships. So like whenever you get married or you start dating or whatever, all of that is going to come out. And it's also going to come out whenever you have children. All of this is going to be there. And so if you want to start fresh and not pull this other trauma into your parenting, then you need to deal with it. So then what happens is people are going and they are trying to deal with every single little event and crossover, and they are analyzing and they are trying to figure out where it all came from, and they are trying to fix it the best that they can, but there's like 1,000 different places that need to be unraveled. So what our program does is we find those threads and we pull on them, because once you can pull a thread out, then it starts to untangle. And once you can pull all those threads out, then this clears, which is clearing the reticular activating system. That is what we do in this program. All of this happened from 6 different events, right? So imagine how messy this gets in real life from the time that you are born until now. You have so much there that if you try to take care of it every little teeny tiny piece at a time, it's rough. It's really rough. And so that's why this program is so amazing, is because you're actually pulling out those main threads, and then as you're pulling things out, it's untangling, like completely. Because who are you underneath all of this anyways? By the time it gets to be so tangled up and piled like this, you have belief systems that you have taken on from other people. You have belief systems that are just, they happened because of the way that events and emotions and people, influences, everything crossed over. And another thing that happens is like let's say you have another situation as an adult where mom did something that hurt you. So first of all, like I said before, the brain is like, oh, we've been here before, so it goes on this pathway, right? So the brain automatically sets it on this pathway, and we are like, well, I am going to just decide to be okay with it. Like, I'm just gonna ignore it. I'm gonna be fine. I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. It hurts, but whatever. I'm fine. It's gonna be okay. Well, what we're doing in that moment is, first of all, the brain has already automatically ran it right through that same pathway from the hurt too. It's all the same. And on top of that, we are stuffing that hurt even deeper because we are refusing to feel it. And so then it becomes even more entangled because we won't feel it and we won't deal with it. And our emotions are trying to tell us something. So at that point, you're just actually doing even more damage in this whole mess because the brain automatically already put it through there. So whenever you clear the reticular activating system, you kind of get a choice again that you have lost, because once these routes are established, they're going to continue taking those same pathways. But whenever you can clear that out, then you can make a different choice and you can route things in a different way. And when you do that, you reinforce those new routes that you've decided to take. And that changes everything.